Hello and welcome to today's content, which will focus on Cloud from the Final Fantasy VII Remake collaboration from the JP version. I will be giving an early preview and unit analysis from him, from JP, just to see if people want to plan for him or not. Basically just as a unit in general. I will be analyzing his abilities and give my perspective and insight on the unit, and I'll give him a rating out of 10. Before we begin, however, I do have to say that some of his abilities and passives are not going to be translated yet, and due to just to translation issues and such, it won't all be clear in terms of the ability names and such. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So for the main job takeaways, his main job is the soldier, but instead of the soldier we know in War of the Visions, it is the soldier of the Final Fantasy VII Remake version. As you can see from the icon itself is different as well. So as a base unit, he gets, I believe his first ability is actually Braver, when it does get translated, where it decreases the slash resistance before you hit and deals small damage after. As you can see, it's a single target. It's not bad. It's definitely very good, especially as his lowest cost ability. This will be very nice to have when he's out of AP. His next ability is going to be, not only is it a 100% hit rate, it also has a higher crit chance in general, and it's AoE, and it hits 3 times. This is very nice to have. It's a 20 cost before his EX upgrade, but once he gets his EX, it's upgraded so that it has a 100% crit chance, as well as the AP cost is reduced by 4, so it goes to 16 AP cost instead of 20. This is very nice to have, especially because it not only helps chain, it's also 100% hit, and it guarantees a crit chance. And since Cloud does have crit damage, which I will be showcasing a little bit later, this is very beneficial to have. After that, we have his only party buff that is very, very good actually. I'm not sure what it's translated into, but his buff is not only going to give attack % up to his teammates, but it also restores AP up to 10 when it's max level when you deal a critical hit. This is very, very important and strong if you use this very well. What I mean by using this very well is that if it lands on all 3 of your allies, including Cloud himself, then anytime they critical hit, they will regain 10 AP. This is very, very important. If you do a multi-hit and you crit on all of them, it'll only count the instance as once, so it does not matter on the multi-hit. As long as you crit at least once within your attack, it will give you AP. Keep in mind, 10 AP might not seem like a lot, but if you think about it, if you use an ability that's if you look at Cloud's triple hit, 100% hit ability, it's 16 AP. If he crits once, he gets over 50% of his AP return from that because he gets 10 AP. So he technically only used 6 AP if he crit. This is very, very important because it significantly helps in terms of sustaining your AP. Maybe if you have bells or not, does not cater to that, but it's just important that it gives you some AP back. And it's for allies as well. Then let's move on to his hardest hitting move, which is going to be at the 200% damage modifier, and it has a chance to paralyze at a base 25% chance. As you can see, it's a single target hit, and the range is 3 tiles away. His EX upgrade for it, though, increases the 200% damage modifier to 240, so it hits much harder. It still is going to be the same for the paralyze, and the AP cost doesn't change, and the range doesn't do much, but it's there. For his EX ability at a job level 25, he gets a big AoE around himself, where it's a good percentage of 170, not bad. It's not as hard as the other ability, but it also has the crit chance of 35%, which is nice to have, especially for some AoE ability. If they're very far spread out, he can at least hit them more reliably with this. For his limit break, not only does it break the physical barrier, but also decreases the critical evasion of targets up to 50, which is huge. And it does 200% damage. Unfortunately, it does not chain. Well, not that it doesn't chain, it is not a multi-hit, but it is one of his longest range abilities, and it does hit very hard, as well as decreasing critical evasion is basically granting you critical hits because it lowers critical evasion. So you could think of it as almost a guaranteed hit, critical hit. So we move on to his sub-job takeaways, specifically for the soldier sub-job. He gains a single target 3 tile range away ability, but if you look at it, it is a 50% chance to stun for 1 turn if you do a critical hit. This is very important that it does not have an extra crit rate on it, but it's also a 50% chance, a base chance of stunning, not 25, 50%. That is very significant. After that, he gets a very big AoE ability. Keep in mind, this is not slash. This is specifically typeless lightning element attacks. What this is going to be 165%, which is not bad. It's pretty nice to have for an AoE, and it has a 25% base chance to blind if it lands, like if the status lands. And you can see it's like a cone shape of an AoE. It actually means it has a very good, basically a very good range, just overall for an AoE. Very nice to have. Outside of that, we do have his Ranger sub-job, which is very strong. He's gonna have Poison Arrow. I'll just walk through them because they're not like too important. He has Poison Arrow, Charge, Vigilance, Supercharge. Most importantly, he has Sharpshoot, which helps for 100% hit abilities because he does have 100% hit on his main job, but this is also viable because it's missile damage. And he has Barrage. As we all know, Frederica and Nivlu are very, very annoying, and like their barrages are very annoying. Cloud has Barrage himself as well. He does not have like super like far range compared to others, but he does have Barrage, and he has very, very high damage. Lastly, it's going to be his Nightblade sub-job. He does get double resist, he gets Stun Blade as well, Spinning Slash, AP Drain, and Concentration. As you can see here, however, he is missing one of the most important abilities here, which is going to be Maiming Slash, which is reducing healing. But he still has at least Concentration, and he does get Stun Blade, Spinning Slash, and double resist, so it's mostly going to be for utility instead of more of DPS relations. However, I do have to say, with Concentration, he is able to hit basically 100% defense penetration, so keep that in mind. So here we are for his resistances and his passives. He is resistant to slash by 15%, which is not bad, 5% to pierce, 0% to strike, 15% to missile, which is also pretty good, not bad, but he is negative 10% to magic, which is unfortunate. It's not like a huge negative, but it is not in the positive. He does, however, have the more unique slash kind of good 10% AoE resistance, which is very relevant, and 0% single target resistance, unfortunately. His resistances to statuses, 50% to disable, which is very, very good, and 50% to paralyze or paralysis. Paralysis is not like very, very common. However, with the more units coming out, especially in the Japan servers, and with Cloud himself because he has paralyzing abilities, having paralyzed resistance will be nice to have just in general. So it won't be a bad resistance to have. He also has a 10% resistance to slow, which is, it's not bad, it's there. For his master ability, he's gonna have the mono lightning ability, the usual, the 10% HP, 15 lightning attack for allies, only for lightning allies. For himself, he gets that AoE resistance by 10%, as we said earlier, for his resistances to damage types, and he gets crit damage 5% for himself. Crit damage only 5% is not a lot, however, it's not bad either. It's you could basically think of it almost like having +5 slash up, but it's not as good because slash, or not slash, but like lightning attack. Yeah, you could think of it as like 5 lightning attack, but it's not consistent because you have to do critical damage. I mean, you have to crit pretty much. As you can see from his move and jump, he has 3 move, 1 jump, 90 cost. 90 cost is not double cost shards like 100 cost units. They are just simply the same as 80 cost. However, they're advertised as 90 because they are quote-unquote stronger. Whether they actually are stronger or not, it's up to you to decide that, but the cost, it does not make too much of a difference. For his passives, I do believe this is Soldier First Class, I believe. This passive is very, very good, and that the HP increase is nice to have because his mitigations in general is mostly focused on his AoE resistance, but he does gain up to 60% of defense penetration. What I have to say is, if we were talking about anything about power creep in general in the game, everyone's like, oh, EX is going to be power creep, which is technically true. It's not too bad as more and more and everyone gets EX. Defense penetration going from 20 in the beginning for most, to 40% for like tune-up from double gunners, to 60% for Cloud specifically. This is, I'm gonna say, a very small power creep. It's still very strong, and it's very nice to have, but it's not as broken compared to like having like slash penetration up to this high percent. Now, if he had slash penetration instead of defense penetration to 60%, and he has something that can cover defense like debuffs or penetration, that would be crazy strong power creep. But for now, 60% defense penetration, very strong, but it's not broken. Moving on, we have his Nightblade Master because he has a Nightblade sub-job, which is very nice to have. It's going to be one of his main attack steroids, and it also gives him accuracy, so he doesn't have to always use his small damage 100% hit ability. He also gains a movement ability from his main job, which is basically like a move up and then attack percent, which is very nice to have. This means he has a possible chance of 4 move 1 jump. It does not give as much attack, however, as Nightblade Mastery, and it does lower his evasion rate. But he does gain accuracy as well on the Nightblade Mastery. So it depends on which one you want to do. Those are my recommended list. For his niche and flex, why I put specifically his basically his ranger passives in the niche and flex is Cloud won't always be gaining as much damage from his missile abilities, like barrage and stuff. It's definitely nice to have, they're very good. Maybe like you even have a composition for it, which is why I have niche and flex. The other benefits from the other abilities are going to be much more significant. Your mandatory, almost always used passive is going to be the soldier first class because of defense penetration. Then your second one is either going to be an attack percent steroid, or it's going to be your range for ranger abilities. So that's why I put it in niche and flex. You can always get 100% of the benefits from the other passives in the recommended, but the niche and flex is contingent that you use basically the ranger sub job. So yeah, that's why I put it in niche and flex. For his reaction abilities, what do you know? He gets reflex, one of the most broken or most annoying reaction that a lot of people know and maybe have faced, and it just gets very annoying if it lands. But yeah, he does get reflex, 15% chance to dodge both physical and magical, so it's very good. He does get counter swing, and his soldier reaction, they're both basically just going to activate at a 30% chance to deal some damage back. This is a 1 tile away, however, and they're both kind of low percentage activation, no offense. Because of 30%, it's kind of crappy. If it was 50%, then we are talking business, but because they're not, I don't see a reason why you would almost never use reflex to just mitigate damage overall. Here is Cloud's rating out of 10. So at his release, because he's also a DPS unit, I gave him personally a 9.5 out of 10. I'll explain why in the future longevity why he's not actually a 10 out of 10 on release, but here we go. First off, he is going to be the first step of a little bit of power creep of a base 60% defense penetration on a passive. This is very hard to mitigate against, especially if units or a tank is very reliant on defense. He's able to chip through it very, very quickly and melt them down. He has decent HP, he has high attack, very fast agility, and he has a base of 0 defense and spirit, however. He's also very, he's always reliable to deal damage due to his defense penetration and slash and parry abilities. This means that his damage relevance does not ever really go out of date because of the tools he's able to have, but yeah, there is basically, he's always reliable for damage. His hardest hitting abilities, as we saw earlier, is going to be mostly single target based, like the 240% or his physical barrier break. However, he does have a few AoE attack abilities that deal a good amount of damage, but they won't be the same as his single target. Since he has access to a possible of 3 damage types, his slash, typeless, or missile, you do have to pick between the typeless and missile. However, he does have options for them, so it's something to consider. He has AoE resistance out of 10, which is decent resistances outside of his magic in general. I do believe he has 15 slash, 15 missile, which are very nice to have. And he has AoE resistance. And in general, I do believe single target or AoE resistance in general is very, very strong. He's very effective, and he has a very strong party buff that I said earlier that gives AP off critical hits. Especially for people who have kind of like high AP costs, if they're able to crit and gain like a portion or percentage of that AP back, which is going to be 10 if it's critical hit and it's max level, that is very, very nice to have. He has access to reflex for his reaction ability, one of the best reaction abilities in the game, because it literally, you can avoid almost anything, almost everything and everything. I say almost because there are a few exceptions to that, but for most purposes he can. He does have 100% hit abilities, he has a barrier break, and he has multi-hits for chaining. He also has a slash and peril, and he can inflict a paralysis. This is all on his main job alone. He definitely has some utility to his kit. It's going to be mostly for himself or DPS wise, but he does have it. His AP costs are acceptable, especially if the AP buff is used. he doesn't have super high AP costs outside of like his subject like Barrage and stuff. However, because he has that AP buff, basically where if you can gain some AP back from critical hits, this is very nice to have to sustain yourself. Ironically, with the Oldora's Apron, which not only also generates AP, but also gives a defense penetration, or if you use concentration itself, he's able to reach 100% defense penetration up to 3 turns. This is very nice. Concentration will bring him up to 80%, but with the Oldora's Apron, you can get the 100% and you get the AP generation over time a little bit. So it's very nice to have, or like something to think about if you want to aim for that 100% defense penetration. For the future and longevity, why I gave him a 9 through a 9.5. The reason why is, this is what I'm talking terms of Cloud as of right now from what we know. If there are future units that come out that can either counter him like very hard and easily and they are meta, then his rating goes down, which is why I put him at a 9. However, if like Orlando's EX from Final Fantasy Tactics makes him go crazy berserk strong, he could be 9.5, maybe even a 10, but for now I put him at 9.5 and I'll go over why. First off, he lacks any type of a barrier or mitigation ability. He has to rely on his resistances that he has. He does have the AoE resistance, which is something that he can work on. Basically, if they're targeting a tank and he's getting chip damage, he does have the AoE resistance. He has mostly mid-range of his abilities. He can be long-range with the Ranger, so he's just a versatile Ranger. Well, not Ranger, but like has a versatile amount of ranges. However, most of his hard-hitting abilities are going to be more shorter range in general. His Slash and Peril is stuck at 25%. Unfortunately, it's not 38% like Kotetsu or like Mons. However, even though it has a small damage modifier, you have to remember that it lowers the resistance before he hits, so he will gain the benefits immediately when he's using the ability. His damage and parts of his attacks are kind of reliant on critical hits for additional benefits, such as like the critical damage that we saw from his master ability, or if you crit, you have a chance to stun. Basically, he needs critical hits, and he does not actually have as high critical hits compared to like someone like Tidus. Ironically, Tidus has very like high critical rate, so it's kind of stupid how Cloud is not 100% reliant on critical hits, but he does have a lot of gimmicks for critical hits, but he doesn't have as high critical hit as Tidus. He does have a 100% hit ability. It does have a low damage modifier. However, it does allow for chains, and it has a guaranteed high crit chance because of his EX upgrade. It will guarantee your critical hits on all 3 hits, which is very nice to have for damage. He's unfortunately weak to magic innately, and it is a little bit worrisome if he goes against the magic team because he has 0 base spirit. He will have to work on like raising the magic resistance as well as his AoE resistance to hopefully survive. His AP buff for his party can allow for multiple units that to like output more abilities and DPS for longer, even without bells or even with bells. With bells, if you use a high AP cost unit, but they can also regen a little bit more AP from critical hits because of his buff, it will be very nice to have. Outside of his AP buff and his Slash and Peril, most of his DPS kit is kind of selfish and applies statuses that have to rely on faith. And because Cloud is already kind of innately like weak to magic in general, raising his faith necessarily is not the best choice of action if you want to keep him alive longer against magic users. So despite having a very high DPS that is very hard to mitigate against, he actually does not have the highest raw damage. The actual highest raw damage DPS that you can get currently in like global is going to be like Auron or Tidus. Tidus with our global buffed Steki Dene is crazy strong, and it actually has more damage and damage modifiers than Cloud, ironically. However, you have to keep in mind, Cloud has Slash and Peril and 60% base defense penetration. While his attack it's very close to Tidus's, Cloud has more damage that is harder to mitigate against, which is what I'm trying to say. It's like Tidus, if there's no mitigation, Tidus will hit it way harder than Cloud, but if they have mitigation, then Tidus won't be hitting as hard. Cloud, sorry. He also kind of needs his Guardian Scorpion Vision card to gain the huge benefits as both a DPS and survivability, because he gets crit damage, he gets crit rate, he gets attack percent, and he gets AoE resistance. All of these are going to benefit Cloud, especially as like himself as a unit overall. So for his TMR chase rating, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Maybe this is even generous, like giving 7 out of 10. It's a little too much. The reason why is that his HP, the HP for an armor type is not bad. It's 477, not bad. Defensive 8 and Spirit of 8 is a very good balance. Crit Avoid of only 10, which is, I mean, not bad. Overall, it's just not bad. It's average. However, there is no agility here, and it's an armor slot, meaning you cannot use an armor anywhere else then in your like equipment. The active is going to be a decrease of AP consumption up to 25% for 3 turns for yourself. However, that means you're kind of required to already have AP because it won't give you as much AP generation and you can only cast it once, meaning it's very niche. I would rather actually just use 2B's TMR in this comparison because you get 80% more AP instead of reducing your cost by only 25%, which will not feel as good comparably. So stuff that can work well with Cloud. Obviously, Charlotte's gonna be a very good choice, not only because she is a magic tank, she can also lower, she has hate, and she can also lower lightning resistance. That means Cloud can like deal a lot more damage. Basically, he'll have more elemental benefit damage from there. Aerith is here specifically because not only does she grant AP, but she does have healing / buffs that can give defense and spirit, but most importantly, she has a magic AoE barrier that she can give to her allies. If she puts it onto Cloud, that is one mitigation that he is done with. Like, he will not have to like worry about getting one shot by magic if he has that magic barrier. Another very strong unit is going to be tanks in general, as you can see from Charlotte as the first slot, but King Mont is going to be very strong because not only does he lower the slash with the slash imperil, he tanks very well as he has one of the highest hate generations because of what abilities he's allowed to have, and the slash resistance, as I said earlier, and they both have AoE resistance. You're able to basically stack up AoE resistance, and you are Mont and Cloud and whoever your third unit is, if they have a lot of AoE resistance, it's going to be very hard to kill them in one go. Lastly, we have Dwayne. Dwayne also, with his EX in JP specifically, gets a slash imperil. It's not as strong as King Mont's, but it's okay. It's still very good. He does have innate hate on himself as well, and basically he can tank and help deal damage. So just having a frontline in general, or having someone to walk alongside Cloud, is going to help for that AoE resistance. For TMRs, obviously Bells is what a lot of people are going to be using, but here are some alternatives. It's going to be like a tradition for like new pages. I'm going to try and think of like TMRs that you can use outside of Bells, because Bells is kind of like, no duh, you should be using it, but maybe you don't have Bells or maybe you're not using Bells. These are some alternatives. Eldor's Apron is going to have AP generation, and it allows for up to 100% defense penetration if he uses his passive. This is very nice to have. That means anyone with defense, you can treat it as 0. Titus's Boots, specifically because it increases critical damage and critical rate, is going to be very nice on Cloud, who kind of has to rely on critical hits for like his damaging kit and his party buff as well. Having critical hits is going to be nice. Titus's Necklace is going to be good here because not only does it help his magic resistance, which is negative 10%, it also increases critical damage. If Cloud is using critical hit abilities, if they have 100% critical hit chance, which like some of his abilities do, the critical damage is definitely going to be beneficial. Lastly, because he's able to use armors, the Brigadine armor that gives 10% more AoE resistance can boost his AoE resistance from 10 to 20. If he also has the Scorpion Vision card, it's going to be 30, and if you have someone with the global, holiday one that has Ildira on it, I believe, which adds another 20 more, he can have basically up to 50% AoE resistance from that setup. It's going to be kind of crazy. He will not take much damage at all from AoE in general. And we arrived to the end of the video. I probably won't be doing a lot more early preview of units in general from JP, only because we're not guaranteed those units, even though we expect it. But it's also because I feel like it kind of spoils some of the situations. I'll probably stick to just units coming out in global once I finish the Final Fantasy 7 remake collaboration, basically. After I finish those units, I'll probably not be doing too many early unit previews in general because I feel like it just spoils too much. But yeah. Anyways, if you like this early preview video that I made on Cloud, please like and subscribe. And until the next video, peace out.